Hi, I'm Dr. Becky Whetstone, marriage and family therapist, and I am based in Little Rock, Arkansas. And my daughter, Casey Marie Schmidt, is here with me. She's based in San Antonio. And we are proud to present to you our first episode of Curl Talk. Casey, what would you like to, how would you describe what our concept of Curl Talk is?
Well, you'll talk to me about your practice generally, and we'll talk to me about different things. And I'll often ask you for advice, when I'm talking to my friends or something, and I can almost hear your voice in my head about things that you would tell them. And sometimes I'll want to, get the technical phrases to tell them. And then you started showing me a few videos, helpful videos that you would show to your clients and stuff. And, you're so funny in your real life, and you have a journalistic background and a comedic background and are just so extroverted and funny that, it seemed like a real waste to me that you weren't combining the two with your therapy and your humor. And I thought that you would really get very far with people who maybe are a little bit discouraged about therapy and, just have a negative connotation about it. And that if you used your humor and the way that you talk to me, rather than, the more technical way that you might have to deal with a client, that you could really reach a lot of people. And so I mentioned it to you just as advice for your own videos, and you asked me to kind of come along to help guide the way.
Well, because, to me, the purpose of Curl Talk is to inform and hopefully entertain people about relationship issues. I feel like my life mission is to educate people about the dynamics of healthy relationships because, I started off my life clueless, making mistake after mistake after mistake, which kind of fired up a curiosity in me to learn about, like, is it the people that I'm dealing with that are the problem, or is it me? I really had no clue. I felt like I was walking in the dark. So, I started reading a lot about relationships in the beginning, and then I became kind of a guru in San Antonio about talking about relationships, but I wasn't a therapist back then, and I would be criticized for that. So eventually, I went on to graduate school and started learning the true dynamics, and then I became a therapist. So I feel like with my training now, I really have a lot of great information. I've learned what healthy relationships are with family, friends, coworkers, anyone. And the information is invaluable. And so I'm hoping through conversation with you that we can help people improve the quality of their relationships, basically. And when I talk to you about the subjects that we talk about that are about relationships, you have a gift for taking the conversation to a deeper level and telling me about what your friends are thinking, what they're talking about and stuff like that. And like, people your age could save themselves decades of hit and miss if they would just know, some of the basic skills of having a healthy relationship. So anyway, I'd rather, hear what's going on out in your world, hear about the problems and issues that people your age are encountering. And I know about the people my age. And of course, I have clients of all ages. Now, I don't see children, although I'm trained to see children. My clients are usually 17 or 18 years old and up. So I can speak from that perspective. But anyway, my goal is to help people have better relationships. And so with that said, what do you feel people your age are dealing with a lot these days relationally?
Mm. I think there's just been such a shift in the way that people date. Even from when I was younger, there was a very clear time that someone asks you to be their boyfriend or girlfriend. And I just feel like that isn't a thing anymore. I feel like I've had to eventually ask every person that I've had a serious relationship with, and they all act baffled, like, of course we are exclusive. And I'm just like, well, without that clear, are you, will you be my whatever. And so just the gray areas that have come about with modernization, with dating apps, and the differences with kind of the blurred lines of gender now. And there are a lot of things that girls are doing that boys used to do. I mean, just all of the mixing, and everything is just a little bit skewed, and it makes everything better right now. I'm all for it, and it makes it a lot easier. However, for dating, it's a little bit more unclear. You don't know when you're exclusive with someone, you don't know what someone wants, and just the lines are a little bit blurry. And so there's that.
Well, I think you're right not to assume that this is your boyfriend. I think that the times that I was thinking, well, I'm dating some guy, and I think that this is going down the boyfriend path, and then I would ask for clarification, and they would go, "Oh no." So if I'd assumed that, then I would have been going one way down the road, and he'd have been going down another way. So I think clarification and, clear communication are obviously important in a relationship, so you guys can know what you're doing and be on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was never a part of the 50s when someone was pinned, but
I remember those days though.
I wouldn't mind it. I do. I mean, I don't want to say miss, but I was never a part of it. But I do think that was a little bit an easier time where, you knew like there was physically something on your shirt saying that this is a relationship. And, I think people's relationship statuses online are kind of the new being pinned. When can I announce it online?
You mean when you change your status on
Yeah.
Facebook?
When can you say in a relationship? That's kind of like when you're being pinned. But, all of the things that lead up to it, how do you find out? And are you going to seem clingy if you ask, like, where is this going? Sometimes you don't feel any rush for it to go somewhere, but you just want to know where it is.
I think that, a lot that this makes me think about, people's attachment issues, which are very, very important to understand in relationships. And there's basically 3 types of attachment that adults have. And one is anxious attached. And I think that's how I used to be wired when I was single. Before the relationship, before we've had that conversation that you're talking about, like, what are we doing here? Is this, monogamous? I would feel great anxiety and nervousness if I didn't know, if I really liked them and I didn't know if I was going to see them next week, or if I didn't know if they're going to call me again. And so I would feel this anxiety. So that's anxious attached. Okay. And then you have the avoidant attached person who keeps you at arm's length and is vague, and, and they would be the ones that would be most likely to say, we're not exclusive. Let's just enjoy the time. Let's not be exclusive.
Oh, yeah. I think I know this
say
one.
things like, don't push me, don't pressure me, don't suffocate me. That's
We're
the
just
language.
having fun.
That's the language of the avoidant. And of course, when I was single, which was 10 years ago, 10 to 20 years ago, between 10 years ago to 20 years ago, I was single. And I met so many avoidant men, it made my head spin. And of course, you see a lot of avoidance in the singles world, because what are they doing? They're avoiding relationships. So they're single and they're available, but many of them aren't even aware that they've got this problem. So it's important. When I became aware of it, when I was single, my deal was I wanted the person in the middle, kind of like the three bears, the one that's just right, which is secure attached.
Mhm.
That person will let you love them all day long and will give you as much time and attention as you want. They'll also give you plenty of space and room to be yourself. So that's kind of the holy grail of the attachments. And so I'm sure you've encountered your share of anxious attached men and avoidant men. I'm wondering if you've ever had one who was secure.
I don't even know. I mean, I was just thinking that, you know, most of the guys that I've encountered are the avoidant attached. And, you know, if they were secure attached, I don't think I've ever logged it in my brain because it was never a concern, you know, where we were relationship wise, you know, wasn't ever a concern. You know, I was just secure in everything that was going on. And so it never occurred to me to really process where we were or what was going on. And so I'm certain that I've had, you know, some secure attached, but I can't really think about it. But, you know, I've had a couple of, I mean, more than a couple of guys that started out with the intention of being anxious, I mean, not anxious, avoidant attached, you know, saying, I just want to have fun, blah, blah, blah. And then have changed their minds and said, you know, I didn't want anything serious, but now I've changed my mind, you know, and we've ended up having long-term relationships. And so I think the one pitfall of that is that every person after that that is an avoidant attached, when they stay avoidant attached, I'm like, well, this time I didn't, you know, I didn't convince them, I guess, you know, like there's, you know, I've turned them before and, you know, made them decide like, well, hell, I'm just going to go into it and have a relationship. Not that that was my intention, you know, it just so happened that we meshed really well and had like years worth of relationships, you know, but they didn't let their intention block them from going forward. And so I guess now when I have that, you know, gentlemen that are avoidant attached and they seem very interested, when they don't let that go, it's hard to not take it personally and think, well, you know, they're just not into me enough to change their mind. And of course, my brain knows all the, you know, correct things to say. It's not my fault, you know, they're just in their own thing, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's hard to not feel it in your heart, just, you know, that kind of
Of
angsty little
course.
teenager, just like, they just don't like me, you know? And so I think that's what I've experienced.
I think it's important to understand that most avoidant men are seductive on the front end. They're not avoidant on the front end. You know, they may be the nicest, most generous, thoughtful guy, you know, can't get enough of you, want to be around with you. And, you know, I've had relationships like that. And then it's almost like once they get you in that place where you are crazy about them, you know, you're kind of locked in and they feel that, then they switch to being avoidant, you know, and then you're going like, what the hell just happened? I thought I'd met my dream man. And then all of a sudden, you know, he went avoidant on me. And then it becomes the pursuit of trying to get them to come back, you know, and even my clients who are in relationships with people like that, and these cycles have been going on for years, and they'll say, I just want him to be the person he was when we met. But I'm sitting there knowing as their therapist that he's not coming back. The only way he'll come back and pursue you or do the seduction phase again is if you leave him. Then if he really appreciated you, he'll come back and bring you back in and seduce you again. And then once the coast is clear, he'll go back to being avoidant again. And it is just discombobulating. And so because I became aware of these patterns and everything and how important they are in relationships, when I was dating, if I even smelled that a man was avoidant, I would be just like, because I had been there, done that too many times, and I just wasn't going to fool with them. For me, it was secure, attached, or bust. I'm not settling for less. And they're hard to find because secure, attached men are commitment oriented and they stay in their relationships. They're not flaky, they're solid, you know, so you've got to wait till
you pretty much have to find someone who's been dumped.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's how I found my husband, who I've been married to for almost 8 years, is that his wife didn't know what she had and she kicked him out. And he was secure, attached, and he didn't have to go out and hunt for a woman right away, as so many men do. He kind of was butthurt for 2 or 3 years. And then, you know,
his friends were just trying to help him out.
Well, people tried to fix him up and stuff like that, and he just didn't think he was ready, and he was very patient. And then we met, and once he was in, which was very quickly, like, he never gave me 1 ounce of anxiety, and I lost my anxious attachment altogether with him. And that's what happens when you're with a secure, attached man. Actually, you become secure, attached too.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'd love to tell a little story about that.
Go ahead.
Which is, my mother, you know, all through my teenage years, when, you know, I was still living at home and she was starting to date, really, and was really first starting to discuss things with me. And I was old enough to kind of see things and know what was going on. And I really, for the most part, would just call her a prude. You know, I would think someone was her boyfriend, you know, they'd be dating for months and she's like, no, they're not my boyfriend, you know, nope. And she just had a very hard line. And I just thought, I mean, she was a prude and was not, you know, I mean, all these men were just like dying to take you out and not be kissed at the end of the night, you know, like everything, they were just dying for it. And I just couldn't get my head around it. And you just wouldn't give an inch, you know, like you were respectful and kind and, you know, transparent about it, but you were not willing to give in to anything, you know, that you didn't want to really do. And, you know, we were in Florida, at a funeral, and you were letting me know that there, you know, we were going to go to Arkansas right after this Florida trip. And you said there was a gentleman there that you'd met a year before that wanted to see you again, but he kind of ghosted you after your sort of first date a year ago. And should you go out with him again? I said, absolutely not. Don't do it. Blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, fast forward a week and I'm at home and I'm sending you a picture of a new armchair. You know, I was living in my first apartment and I had just bought an armchair that was like 50 years old from Goodwill and was so proud of it. I was sending you a picture of my new chair and saying how much I loved it. And you said, well, I'm in love with a chair. I was just so confused. And background is that my
and all the viewers are completely confused now.
My now stepdad's last name is Chairs. And so I was so confused, and she was like, I'm in love. And I mean, this woman who for as long as I've known her would barely kiss a man goodnight, wouldn't say, you know, he's not my boyfriend, we've been dating for months, but no, he's not my boyfriend, we're just seeing each other. You know, she went on one more date with this man and was already texting me, I'm in love. And so, you know, there was just something totally different about this person. And, you know, it never changed. And everyone,
No.
you know, all of the different weird things, you know, y'all live in different states. At the beginning of your relationship, and an enormous trauma happened to you. And, you know, a lot of people thought he was not going to stick around. It was too stressful. You were going to change too much,
Mhm.
having to deal with the loss of a child. And, you know, he stuck around. I mean, just through everything, you know, y'all, it was just incredible to see. But I'll always remember sending you that picture of a chair and you saying, I'm in love
I
with
didn't
the
even
chair.
remember that. I didn't even
I'm in
remember
love with the chair too.
that. Well, avoidant people have great anxiety when they get too close to somebody for too long. That's what happens to them, is they feel overwhelmed or engulfed. And so they push back, and lots of times they're sitting there thinking, is this somebody I want to, spend some serious time with or not, and all that kind of stuff. And if the woman's real pushy during that period of time, then they'll decide, I'm out. But a lot of people marry avoidants get married, and then the pursuit is taking place within, the marriage. And the wife who comes to see me is saying things like, he's a workaholic. My love language is quality time, and he won't give me quality time, but he makes a lot of money. So he buys me nice things and nice cars and stuff. And I'm supposed to be happy with that. But that is what's going on with the avoidant, is too much closeness makes them feel overwhelmed, and then they have to pull back. So avoidance can be very like rubber band like. So like I was saying in the beginning of this conversation, is if the man pulled back on me, I'm like, no, I'm not.
Well,
And one of my criteria was I wanted the man to be enthusiastic about me. Whereas, so many men just play it so cool. They don't let you, they may be crazy about you for all you know, but they're so shut down emotionally. They don't express it,
they don't
you
show their
know?
cards.
Exactly. So when I just got to the point where I just wasn't going to tolerate too much dysfunctional behavior. I mean, everybody's got some, but I had certain things in mind for me that were deal killers, and like one of my criteria was the guy had to make more money than I did. I had dated guys before who had made less money than I had, and I thought,
Made them insecure.
well, then they would start making snide remarks to me like, oh, or if I had more education than they did. Oh, well, you with your Ph.D., you think you know everything. And I'm like, no, I'm
I
not
deal
going to
with
listen
that
to stuff.
because of my
Not
successful
going to
parents,
listen to that.
you know?
So somebody had to have a degree similar to mine, or because I didn't want to hear about that. They had to make more money than I did, because I didn't want there ever to be the power problem of the woman making more than the man. I just didn't want to risk it or deal with it. So there was all these kinds of things, criteria I had in my head. And when I met Johnny, he just hit all the bullet points, but it took a long darn time to find him. But the deal is, I've had enough experience with the really super dysfunctional men to where I don't take him for granted. I really let him know all the time how much I
Yeah, he
appreciate
has no
doing it.
doubts. I don't think no one on the street would have a doubt about how you feel about Johnny. Well,
Yeah,
so
but
then
what I
what?
want is for all you guys out there in cyberland to, learn how to choose a mate that's healthy and healthy for you. Because to me, that's the number one cause of divorce, is choosing somebody that they're not mature enough to do this thing called relationship with us.
Well, then what is the antidote or the solution to someone who is an avoidant? You know, what if someone watching this is saying like, okay, I am dating someone or I'm married to someone who is an avoidant? I mean, clearly they have to be suitable for someone. They have to marry someone, you know, if that's what they want. And so is it that they have to change, you know, they have to, or is it just that they haven't found the person that's going to shift their perspective? You know, I
I
mean,
think, you
what
know,
is the solution?
we'll have a sign in my office that says, when you have a problem, you have three choices. Accept the problem as is, status quo, keep it going, you know, but that means you can't be complaining about it anymore. This really means you accept. So I accept that I'm married to an avoidant and this is the way it is. And so
So
I'm going to
double
have,
jeopardy attaches.
well, so I'm going to have to create a life for myself where I'm not waiting around for him to come join me, or, you know, counting how many hours he hasn't been home and stuff like that. So that would be accept, number one choice. Number two choice is tell them, you know, tell the man that, you know, you would like to go get counseling. And really, avoidance is kind of an anxiety disorder, you know, because they're getting so anxious, you know, when they get too close to another human being. So there's that they can learn how to overcome this, and they can, through work, become secure attached. But you've got to be highly motivated, and most people aren't motivated when their wife is bitching about them
Mhm.
not coming around. They've got to want more connection themselves, for themselves. So it's not that many people are gonna work to get rid of their avoidance.
Why does an avoidant seek out a relationship in the first place if they have such anxiety about being connected to someone? Why do they, I mean, because I can think of some people in my own life who have crept up over and over and over, and they clearly meet all the criteria that you're talking about. You know, they initiate wanting to be around, wanting to be with me or involved in something, and as soon as I'm like, okay, well, let's try it, and they're just like, never mind, I changed my mind. And you know, it's like, okay, you know, I wasn't trying, but you tried. So I mean, what is their incentive if they're so anxious about this? And they really, I mean, because it seems like if they seek out attention or, you know, companionship, that's their motive. But then what scares them so much about the same thing that they're seeking out?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question, and then we're going to wrap up this conversation for today. And I do want, I do want to say to people out there that we would love for you to write us or email us, and I'll be putting the email information down at the bottom of the screen so that you can ask us questions, and then we'll address your questions and whatnot on the screen. And we're so happy that you joined us today, and hope you learned something, and tell us how we did. Okay, so the reason avoidance go get mates, try to hook up with people, I mean, like have relationships and even get married, is because they're human beings at the end of the day, and our brains are wired for connection with a significant other. So you can be the most avoidant man in the dang world, and your wife divorces you because she's tired of longing for a connection that never comes and all this stuff. And so she leaves you. And then what happens is you go right out and get married a second time, because you're a human being, and your instinct draws us to go connect with another human being. It's a survival instinct, because our brain is all about survival at any given day. That's its top priority. And it knows that when you're in connection with another human being, that increases your chances of survival. So that's why they do it. And I tell people in my office all the time, he's going to go back, you know, he's going to go back and do this again. But the woman is, you know, the only way that you can be happy in a relationship with an avoidant is if you're avoidant yourself. And, you know, you get two people who are avoidant, and then, you know, you got a deal. But, you know, it's just not going to be the kind of intimate connection that most women are hoping for in the year 2021. Most of us feel that we deserve and want emotional connection and intimacy with our man, and we're not going to settle for anything less. So one of the books that I use many times is called The New Rules of Marriage by Terry Real. And he coaches men in that book and says, dude, if you chose a family, if you chose a wife and kids and you're avoidant attached, you're going to have to learn how to show up. You're going to have to overcome this problem, because intelligent women simply are not going to tolerate a life without closeness and connection.
Mhm.
So did that answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. Casey, you want to say thanks and goodbye to
Thank you,
everybody?
everybody.
Thank you
Yeah,
for joining us
bye.
on Girl Talk, and we'll see you next time.